UCLA and DeShaun Foster must be much better in 2025, heading into the red zone in situational football. Here are the guys that could stand out this upcoming season.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. What we're talking about today, how can UCLA and offense be a bit more successful in the red zone? Who can they target? Who are those guys that's not going to necessarily lead them in yards and receptions or touchdowns, but can move the chains every so often and be the go-to guys in certain situations? And I'll kind of dictate, should DeShaun Foster be more of a gambling coach this year, or should he be a little more conservative and establish the culture? I'll talk about that in the last segment. So where I'm going at with this first segment, who do I think could be those potential first and goal at the one guys? 4th and 3, who is UCLA going to throw the ball to? All right, some might be fairly obvious, some might be spicy. So join the conversation in the comments and tell me your thoughts. You think I'm stupid, you might already think that, who knows? Where I'm going to go with this, I think obviously you have Jalen Berger as your number one back returning, where UCLA could go for a first and goal at the 1, 4th and short, 4th and inches. Other than Nico being 6'6", being very tall, I think you might want to give the ball to an Anthony Frias II. We've seen him get the ball at various times at the end of the 2024 season. He's a back that's 5'10", 225, big back. So in terms of weight and girth potentially of your running backs in the room, that includes Jalen Berger, Anthony Woods, Javian Thomas, Isaiah Carlson, Carson Cox, you might want to go with a Frias if you want that 4th and short. Obviously, every running back wants to demand the ball and have that opportunity. And if Berger, or if it's a freshman Cox who breaks out, obviously you want to pound the rock, give it to your best option, which very well could be a Javian Thomas from Cal. But I'm thinking of an unheralded guy. Maybe Anthony Frias could be that guy. Maybe it's another Anthony in Woods. But I'm going to go with Frias as my potential pick to say, hey, this could be somebody in a short yardage package that could be useful, maybe not week 1, but later down the line. Also, does UCLA at some point truly trust a true freshman in Carson Cox to get the rock, work his way up the running back depth chart, and be just the bell carrier, just the big-time back that takes all the snaps, gets all the reps, and takes all the carries? I'm not sure, because you're probably going to go based off of what they've done before, a Jalen Berger, a Javian Thomas, and then some of those guys are going to get various snaps in a limited way, whether they need to be blocking for a passing situation, a leak out, more of a reception-based option, whatever it might be. You're going to lean with Thomas and Berger as those top two guys. I think maybe 4th and short, 3rd and short, a short yardage back, Frias could be an option, and it would be intriguing to see where Carson Cox comes in. All right. Now, who could be more that guy you're going to run a screenplay for? You would think Javian Thomas, dynamic at Cal, absolutely dynamic. When they thought they had a top-tier back, he was hurt. And then Javian Thomas came out with Fernando Mendoza, a sneaky good Cal team. Don't let the numbers and the wins and losses fool you about Cal in 2024. Thomas was a contributor for a Cal team that was deceptively good last year. And if you want a screenplay, you're thinking 3rd and 11, Tino dials up a screenplay, and you're like, all right, let's roll this with Javian Thomas. He could slip out and break it, right? You're thinking 3rd and 8, you're going with the draw. Javian Thomas would be that guy who could break it off. I think of all the running backs in this room, it would be Thomas. If you're trying to get that leak out back, that breakout potential, the big play touchdown, which we're hoping to see a lot more of with Chip Kelly at UCLA. I'm not sure we ever truly got that consistently like it was at Oregon. You can't really compare those two. Now, there were moments with Kaz Allen in the previous regime. There wasn't really ever those moments other than surprising Ethan Garber's runs under Eric Bieniemy. This year, I would love to see some of those breakout plays. Now, if you're looking for short yardage, I've said my name, Frias, maybe Cox, as unheralded options, but for breakout plays, big touchdown, big gains in unexpected ways, yeah, the ball has to probably be in the hands of Javian Thomas as a guy who comes in and makes big plays. That's who I think it could be. Now, if you're looking from a tight end room, right? Last year, UCLA and Maliki Monteval, they went to Bryce Pierre in certain options. Now, those guys are both gone, both older guys, one of them looking more NFL options. You had Pierre, who had transferred in. This is where the Bruins go now. You have Jack Peterson. You have Hudson Habermill off injury. You have Jake Renda coming in from Pitt. Dylan Sims, who is one of the bigger, bulkier tight ends out of the freshman class. Maybe you have Peter Barrio. Various options. Now, the one whose name sticks out the most was Hudson Habermill because it's been a couple of years. He was serviceable when UCLA was lacking in depth prior to Maliki Monteval coming in, all right? Habermill, fairly serviceable during the Chip Kelly era, but he had to miss all of last year, and recently was talk with the media about how he had to recover, losing that last year, coming off the ACL injury, and just sitting there during the first year of the DeShaun Foster era. Now, if you're looking for that tight end option, I think Tino, I wonder what he's going to utilize the tight end for. Is it going to be as much as a chip? Will it be, what's his option going to be? I wonder, is Jake Renda going to have a bigger role or a lesser role than Bryce Pierre did? Because I felt like UCLA at certain times, they gave the ball to Bryce Pierre quite a bit. For a guy that came in late, newer the program for first year, who didn't necessarily have big numbers, but was a big-bodied receiver capably as at the tight end spot. Which one of those guys could come in? Is that a Jake Renda? Is that the role he could fill coming in 2025? Now, I wonder what Tino's going to design with his offense. How much the tight end is more of a blocking tight end? Is it more of a receiving tight end option, right? Are we going to find a breakout tight end? I don't know. I really don't know. Considering it, right? The most that they really got to showcase at fall camp, they could stretch. Oh, they could stretch. The reports of them stretching. Awesome. But we also got the reports that Nico's special. And while he's developed some good rapport with the receivers, which I'll talk about in the next segment, you have to circle Hudson Habermill. The tight end spot as a whole is a key position group for UCLA being much better in the red zone in 2025. Whether it's blocking, and you give your quarterback a little more time to give the receivers chance to run in the end zone. Maybe it's a leak out from the running back, or is it a tight end, gets a little chip block, leaks out for an open catch right in front of the end zone and dives in? Is that Hudson Habermill's opportunity? That's the guy you think of first. I would think maybe Jake Renda, maybe a Bryce Pierre role, or you're looking at like a Dylan Sims, potentially a big body tight end. I just wonder which one of those guys of the 3 to 5 to 6 listed on the roster could actually break out. And then maybe I'm just guessing way out of my mind here, thinking, all right, what could it be? These are just projections, looking at what this team could be at in the next couple of weeks, what it could be looking like week 4, week 5, week 6, in situations that might not present itself during the Utah UNLV or New Mexico game, right? You hope that most of these games won't present every situation. But the tight end group is the most important group for UCLA to be better in the red zone. They are the most important group. And you could debate as to which back will be the guy that can pound the rock on a first and short behind an offensive line that we're not just sure about, but maybe one of those guys can wiggle free and get into the end zone or move the chains, which is important to keep moving the football in this new day and age of college football, or we don't stop the chain. We don't stop the clock after first downs during the majority of the game anymore. Moving the chains, controlling possession, and keeping the clock moving with the ball in your hands is important and vital for UCLA to do that and win games this year. And moving the chains with a short yards guy, the tight end's importance, those are all big. What we're going to talk about next, potential breakout receivers. I've already mentioned one in recent episodes. Maybe you've heard about it. We'll talk about it next. And is there even a possibility that Cade Robinson's coming? We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. It's a doctor-developed, scientifically proven for fast hydration. Drip Drop uses the perfect balances of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. Think about it. We're in Southern California, and you're like, it still stays hot through October and sometimes into November. You very much need to stay hydrated, even though classes and the quote-unquote summer season is coming to an end. This is where Drip Drop comes in, and it's a game changer for your workout. Those extra busy days, because it still stays hot here for another 2.5+ months. That's what's going to happen. It's your go-to. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. Cruising on second segment, I talked about guys who could potentially in position groups help lead to UCLA being a little more successful in the red zone. And while we're still going to see what it looks like for Tino Sunseri in 2025 with his new offensive schematics, I'm assuming they'll be a lot better considering they overhauled the position groups. So we're going to look at a lot of hopeful growth from the offensive line, where you see Andy Kwan come in with where he's worked. You've seen Tino work with the QBs. Obviously, DeShaun Foster as a running back coach himself, working his way potentially being an NFL running backs coach a year prior before coming back to UCLA. You would hope UCLA has seen talent in the running back room where they could develop under Burl Tulaire III, the former Cal receivers coach, will be interesting for UCLA. They had a big run recruiting in 2026, but right now what we're looking at is a group that's unique, right? You have Rico Flores Jr., who was supposed to start last year over Logan Loya, but got hurt, had a big game one, a big, long grab, had 100 yards in game one against Hawaii, got hurt, and we never saw anything from him at the end of 2024, and he's supposed to miss a good portion to start the 2025 season, so he can't really be relied upon. Titus Mokiao-Atsumalawa, speaking of another guy who, when healthy, is always a potential sleeper for breaking out. If he comes in and is impactful and stays healthy, Mokiao-Atsumalawa is one of those receivers that can be like, wait a minute, this is a solid guy that with a solid season this year could be a sneaky undrafted free agent in the NFL. Maybe could sneak in to the NFL draft, but would be one of those guys in a year from now, in my mind, that could be an impactful receiver for a year or two, or at some point, whether he's winning you a fantasy football championship, whether he's helping a team move the chains. What UCLA needs is a healthy Titus, and then next thing you know, Mokiao-Atsumalawa could be finding his way into some fun accolades at the next level. Now, the biggest opportunity is Quasi Gilmer. I loved what Quasi Gilmer brought in his freshman campaign. Obviously, he had the big commitment video of him in the pool and all the fun stuff, right? The glitz and the glamour. And he kind of lived up to it in small snippets. It wasn't necessarily his fault or any of these receivers' faults. UCLA never had a time to always throw deep down the field. They never had the time for Ethan Garbers to make big plays. And this is the best quarterback they've worked with in a long time. The best pure passer UCLA's had since Josh Rosen. It's not that hard to say. DTR was great for other reasons, but it still took years for him to develop. It took, a moment or two for Dante Moore, and then we realized, maybe the true freshman doesn't have it, and he hasn't run away with the job at Oregon. Ethan Garbers, we loved him. He had to fight for his starting job many times after transferring back from Washington, and we love him starting this Deshawn Foster era. But with Nico and company running the show, and company emphasized, I think these receivers could have a game-changing opportunity. And if it's 3rd and 5, I'm thinking UCLA, they should go to Titus Mokiao-Atsumalawa. That's a guy you should feed the ball to. The Bruins are losing their deep threat in J. Michael Sturdivant. They lost their reliable slot option, who did have a down year last year in Logan Loya, but he's gone. So the guys you're going to look to are the Mokiao-Atsumalawas, who's been around the program for quite some time. Quasi Gilmer is the one who could break out and lead this team in receptions. And then the unique ones are some of these transfers, right? You have Mikey Matthews from Cal. You have Jaden Wilson from Arkansas. I also see the likes of Kyle Miller from Tennessee. That's interesting. He's a senior receiver. Jace Brown, a transfer also from Arkansas. Shane Coleman, a freshman, and Carter Shaw, in brief moments, did impress in 2024. Now, you can't just go listing every receiver. You can't think, is Caden Robinson coming? You can't plan on that. But if he does, immediately you plug him in the lineup, and that is your J. Michael Sturdivant replacement. If Caden Robinson wins his case, gets the Diego Pavia injunction of his own, to stay and extend his career one more season, then UCLA has their deep threat. I'm just not entirely sure which one of these guys stands out to me right now to be the deep threat and win the ball in the air. Because not too often in the last 2 years did UCLA target their best receiver. Clearly their best receiver in J. Michael Sturdivant when he was healthy and ready to go. They could get him going vertical, give him the ball. Remember that USC game just last year? A rainy, weird day in the Rose Bowl, and he was going up and winning some balls. And the Bruins couldn't do that over his 2-year career. He was doing that at Cal against UCLA, and now he's gone. All right. So if Cade Robinson's good, I haven't seen too much to update. He did lose the first portion, but for some reason, DeShaun Foster seemed confident. We'll see how it plays out. To my knowledge, from what I've read, what I've seen at this moment, but it's a unique case. I'm not really going to bank on it until it happens. You just can't. So who needs to step up? Somebody who can go deep, who the Bruins can rely upon to win a ball in the air, whether it's a Nico decision or Nico's like, I will put a ball in the spot, you go win it. I'm just not sure I see that receiver on this roster at this moment. Now, playmaker with the ball in his hands, I can see Quasi Gilmer getting open. I can see that guy in the slot in a 3rd and 5. You want a possession receiver, that's Titus Iamaleava. More of a slot guy, potentially a Mikey Matthews, who could come in, find the opening in the end zone, and be wide open, make a touchdown. Considering he's got already rapport with his receiver coach, that they both came down from Cal, he will be the season's punt returner to start the year. Think of a sure-handed guy. Yeah, Matthews might get a lot of reps. Whether he's successful and serviceable early, we'll find out. That's a guy who you see the connection. He's already got the relationship with the receivers coach. You need that relationship and trust with your position coach. And then all of a sudden the OC will start calling plays for you. That's where I think UCLA will go first. The guy who might end up over the course of the year doing more is Mokiao Atimalala. And then the big unknowns are some of the freshmen, the Carter Shaws or the underclassmen, then the Shane Colemans of the world. Jace Brown, who I'm not sure might contribute just yet this year. What is the health of Rico Flores Jr.? I'm just not sure. But between all those guys, Gilmer poised for a breakout. From the CBS Sports article that said that Nico was special, well, Quasi was his go-to guy. Quasi was. He might literally go quasi-nuclear in terms of just blowing up on the field, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Hopefully that's the case. But I have yet to see who could be that vertical threat consistently for this team. And if that's not the case, then Tino Sansera, the offensive coordinator, is going to need to be very creative. And if he is, as he's been able to do with transforming quarterbacks at almost every level, every stop, having successful years with his work, I think they'll be fine. I'm just not sure if we'll be vertically going down the field every game 10 times a game. I'm not sure. Even with Nico's ability to throw it down the field, who's the guy that's going to go get it? They have to earn it in week 1 and prove it. Who's going to stand out? Next, though, DeShaun Foster, what can he do to be more aggressive or not as much? Let's talk about it next on Locked On UCLA. Have you ever decided at the last minute, go to a ball game with the friends or family? Maybe it's game day and suddenly you realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. And the money you save on the tickets, you can go splurge on the food, the drinks, the merch, even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. And when you buy those tickets, it's fast and simple. For me, I want to go to big group outings. I like to invite a lot of my friends to go to games, and I like to do it at the last moment, whether it's a big hockey outing and you're like, wait a minute, I want to invite more people to come with me. Or it's like, wait a minute, I want to go to the last second Dodgers game or any baseball game. I want to get a big group to come with me. You know where I'm always checking first? And finding those best deals with the lowest prices right before game time. Game Time literally is the app to go to and takes the worrying out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, final segment here of Locked On UCLA. We are talking DeShaun Foster specifically. All right, Game 1, Week 1 last year when the Bruins were in a nationally televised affair against Hawaii. It was hot. It was muggy. It was ugly. in various aspects. The Bruins eked out a victory against Hawaii. Every single game the Bruins won last year was of the one-score variety. 5-2 in one-score games. And if UCLA wants to be just as successful in one-score games, I'm not sure that was always because of the masterful job managing the game by DeShaun Foster. Sometimes the Bruins did, in spite of DeShaun Foster's in-game tactics, win some of these games. It was how they played, how they raced out to the lead, and then the defense made plays later in the game. All right. If you think about the Nebraska game, the Bruins could have run them out of their own stadium and kept them in the game with some personal foul penalties. They went up big early against Rutgers, kept them in the game. Struggled to get out of their way against Hawaii, kept them in the game. Could have easily won the Minnesota game, kept them in the game. Against Iowa, against a third-string quarterback who can't even run an offense in recent years under Kirk Ferentz, the Bruins kept Iowa in the game. So what's it going to take for UCLA to knock the doors off some of the opponents and actually win a two-score game when they played good enough to go win a game by 10 to 14 to 21 points and not win it by one score and need a defensive stand by defense we're not entirely sure about can do that game in and game out by forcing a turnover or fourth down stop all the time. Sometimes your offense is to go out and hold your two-score lead. What I'm hoping for is that UCLA isn't going to be wondering, should we punt it? Should we kick it? Should we kick a field goal? It's fourth down in 1 or 2, and DeShaun Foster's burning timeouts like he was going back and forth in that first week against Hawaii, or when UCLA on a punt return didn't have enough guys on the field, so Hawaii went out and ran for a first down, if you remember that week 1 game that allowed them to get an early stop and then all of a sudden keep the ball on fourth and long with the punter making a big play. That was embarrassing. You probably forgot about it, but it was embarrassing. Now DeShaun Foster probably is a little bit better of a feel for the game. And I remember looking at some of the reports of practice. I think Ben Bolch of the LA Times put out there that Team Bagani was missing some short kicks, hooking them to the left. And while Bagani is supposed to fortify the kicking position, you can't always trust that kickers are going to be rock solid every single time. I'm going to put this out there. I think DeShaun Foster, with the way he's put out his actions that speak louder than his words, bringing in Nico, you should not be conservative this year. Be exciting. Be bold. Am I saying 4th and 1 from your own 35 every time? Should you be Dan Campbell? Should you? No. But imagine like when they were playing against LSU and they're ultra aggressive. The Bruins were going for it in Death Valley, in Baton Rouge. They were going for it. I think the Bruins should be an aggressive football team this year. You're thinking 4th and 1 from the 37, go for it. Don't even think about it. Unless the game is tied and you can kick a field goal to win it, obviously, yes, you're kicking the field goal. But if it's like, should I punt it? 4th and 1. Am I just within range of Mateen Bagani? Do they have the leg? Whoever it might be that ends up kicking the field, go for it. Use your 6'6 quarterback. Use any of the guys that you have in your roster and trust the O-line this year and a genius, hopefully in Tino Sunseri, to make plays this upcoming year. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. That is my thought. If you're going to be a little conservative, yes, it's one thing to be a little conservative. But I just think year 2, go for it. You're still, at least in DeShaun and in my eyes for DeShaun Foster, you're in that wiggle room where if you're aggressively making mistakes, year 2, you can still make those, all right? Now, there are some unforgivable mistakes, like Miami a couple years ago, not kneeling the ball and fumbling it and literally losing the game. That's not a forgivable mistake to cost a game like that. And that's nothing that DeShaun has done, but it comes to an aggressive approach. Go for it. Time, whatever it takes, aggression should be the mindset. Now, it is funny because what I'm saying might actually go against what DeShaun Foster's trying to build. Discipline, respect, enthusiasm, which might mean the game comes to them if they continue to play the right way. But I'm saying the way UCLA has recruited and gone after it with an energetic approach, they want to attack the recruiting. They want to attack the offseason. They want to attack the team culture by going out to Costa Mesa. DeShaun Foster says, hey, let's fix this practice field, have a real 100-yard practice field, put on grass because we're going to play on grass. Let's do this with a whole set approach and do that with the likes of on-the-field decisions. 4th and 1 from the 25. Go for it. Why not? Be aggressive. Now, you could argue, Zach, hey, they were aggressive. Something like the Penn State game didn't exactly work out. Okay. But imagine if UCLA's 4-0 and they bring in an undefeated top 5 ranked Penn State team in the Rose Bowl on October 5th, or whenever that early October date is. And you're like, all right, you get 4th and 1 from the 32. It's 0-0 in the first quarter. Do you really want them to be kicking the field goal or DeShaun Foster to be calling timeouts and thinking, hey, should I punt the ball? No, you're going to want to go for it. 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and 3. That's the aggressiveness UCLA can go with. They're playing with house money if they're doing well. Even if it's against Utah, aggression. I say go for it. This is the year to be like, let's do it. From week 1, don't doubt. Go in with the mindset. Maybe he goes in with a more analytical approach, for better or for worse, but have something guaranteed and known that you're not calling a timeout to waste it or think about it. You're going to go for it. 4th and 1 to ice the game. Go for it. Just go for it. Some of the best coaches have gone for it and had the best success, best records in recent years, biggest turnarounds. Now, has it led Dan Campbell to get to the Super Bowl yet? No, it hasn't. But the Lions gone from a laughingstock to a contender. Have you seen what some of the best coaches have done, even against the best premier teams in the NFL and college football? Go for it. We've seen that this day and age, the coaches that don't adapt, that don't go for it. You can see James Franklin, conservative. You can see Dabo, who was dominant in the early 2010s. Now, in the 2020s, didn't adapt to the transfer portal till later. He's behind the 8 ball. Be ahead of it all and go for it. Go for it, Deshaun. And the Bruins could have a special season, and they will be the hot topic come November and December, and growing even more so in 2026, which is why I'll be excited. And you should be here for Locked On UCLA and every men's basketball, women's basketball, football discussion, because next, coming up in the next couple episodes, we'll be talking those projected starting 5s in men's and women's basketball. Spicy topics. So be prepared to hit the comments with that too. All right. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.